Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be addressing a community post I put out 2 weeks ago, and I asked what is something that you guys want to see, and I gave you a poll of I think 4 questions, and you guys resoundingly chose that you wanted to see the 5 carpenter cons again. So I'm going to add 5 additional cons that I didn't speak about before, and one of them was a clear oversight, and I'm going to begin with that one. Let's go. First off, I'm going to start with the con that should have been fairly obvious. I probably should put in my first video, and it's dealing with extreme weather and weather conditions. A lot of their occupations don't have to deal with that unless you're talking about going from your car into your building or wherever you're working at, maybe your warehouse. You're not dealing with the extreme weather, whether it be extreme cold or extreme heat. As carpenters, we're constantly in the elements. We're constantly dealing with like downpours and rain, especially being in Oregon in the Pacific Northwest. It rains a ton. So that's constantly something that we're dealing with around 7 to 8 months out of the year. So that's something that's going to weigh heavy on your mind. And a lot of times there's no way to alleviate these like negative effects of the weather, like whether it be extreme cold or extreme heat. If it's really cold, you can put on a lot of, different layers, but you're still dealing with the elements. It's still cold. But when it's hot, when it's like 100 degrees outside, it's very difficult because you can only take off so many layers, especially being like a commercial union carpenter. You can't have, no shirt on and wearing shorts and flip-flops at work. You have still a strict uniform, so it's fairly it sucks, but at the same time we make decent money, so I think it kind of balances out. One of the things that's not spoken about a lot is when it comes to like Oregon and the West Coast, snow is huge. When it comes to, if it snows, it seems like the whole city has no idea how to deal with it, and the whole thing becomes a parking lot like this. So if it does snow on your job, try to get out of there as soon as possible, because if you don't, you might be stuck in a tunnel for 6 hours like I was 1 year because my foreman wanted to snap out layout. When we came back to that job site, all it was gone. So it was all for nothing. So that extra hour of working on something at your job might cost you 6 hours of your life afterwards. So that's something that carpenters deal with. A lot of times other companies that aren't in construction would send people home early. For some reason, it seems like people really want to milk that production. So make sure you understand going into it that weather is going to be a big factor when you join the trades.
Now, number 2,
as a carpenter, you're going to be the facilitator. You're the point guard. You're pretty much going to be the liaison from the general contractor and all the subcontractors. And one of the major issues is like you have to be like a nanny / like enforcer when it comes to PPE, telling guys to put their hard hats on, telling guys to put their safety glasses on, making sure they're doing stuff safe as far as like fall protection. You would not believe the amount of wild stuff that goes on our job site on a continual basis because people want to do things fast, but they don't want to do things safe. And so at one point we had a guy tie off to a dustpan. He just seen a metal hook and assumed that was a tie off point, and he literally tied off to a dustpan. So knowing that, you're constantly dealing with like subcontractors trying to skirt the line and maybe get it done really quickly, but then like not get caught. But if OSHA comes or if something catastrophic happens, it's going to be on your conscience. So if you see somebody do something unsafe, just stop them. It doesn't matter what kind of attitude they get, and they will get an attitude for the most part, but then you feel a lot better than if someone fell out a window and then died and you didn't say anything. So again, dealing with subcontractors is very difficult, especially when they're dealing with like the shenanigans of like knowing how to do something properly, but then it's like not doing because they don't want to. I've seen some subcontractors like literally rock around temp lights, or they see exposed wire coming maybe from a wall and then like finishing around it and then not asking like what's going on with that and waiting for the sparky to fix that. So you had that too. So constantly having to babysit a lot of the subs. As a general carpenter, that's going to be your job to make sure that those things aren't happening, because they're going to look at you like, hey, why don't you tell them? And it's like, well, I thought we're all adults here. I thought that was like, pretty obvious that you shouldn't be sheetrocking and mudding over temp lights. But again, they do it. And also, what is up with some of these subs pissing in water bottles? I've had so many jobs where they piss in water bottles, and they will piss in toilets that are not set up, not hooked up, and they'll cover them up so you don't see it. They're getting paid by the square footage, or they're getting paid piecework. So they're trying to rush. And instead of going, down 5 flights of stairs into the porta potty, they would much rather piss inside of a bottle. This is not an Amazon situation where, their schedule is so tight that they can't use the bathroom. It's just a laziness situation. So that's gross. It's not something that we want to deal with as carpenters, but that's something that happens on almost every job that I've been on.
Number 3,
it kind of ties into the subcontract, but also does fall on us carpenters too. It seems like a lot of people weren't raised properly, I guess. I don't know, like maybe their mom did everything for them, and maybe at home their wife does all the cleaning, but it seems like a lot of guys, especially if you get a whole bunch together, if no one's designated to do a job of cleaning, it never gets done. And then so you have a lot of guys who make the excuse of like,
I'm trying to be productive, I had to rush.
But at the same time, it's like, it's not anybody else's job to clean up your sheetrock cutoffs. It's not anybody else's job to, if you're pulling wire, all the sheathing that's on the ground, or this metal conduit everywhere, and you see that all the time. So many times we've had to stop everything that we're doing as carpenters because the subs did not do their job properly, or we have an inspector coming, or we have architects or engineers going to do a walk, and we have to make sure the ground is walkable pretty much. And so that makes things harder on us because we have deadlines, we have jobs we have to do, and so us stopping everything to make sure everything's flowing for the job, it sometimes does bite into our production. So it sucks, but it's something that has to be done because if we don't do it, no one does it. And coming back to the carpenter part, when it comes to like eating areas, when it comes to parts where, again, no one's designated to clean up, if you get a whole bunch of guys and you have that tragedy of the commons type situation where no one's told to do it, you'll see garbage cans fill up with stuff, and you might have like food and stuff in there, and so you might get like rats. I've been on jobs where like roaches are now appearing and rodents because it's an older building, so these little vermins are inside the building, but now they want to coalesce on our eating area because guys are leaving trash and they're not cleaning up after themselves. So that's a major factor when it comes to if something's not assigned to somebody, it seems like nobody wants to clean up after themselves. I try to keep all my stuff in my lunch pail, so then if it ever comes up like who didn't do this or who didn't do that, all my stuff is in my backpack. I keep my stuff clean. I don't use a microwave for the most part because, for one, I take the microwave for granted because I assume we don't have one. So I try to eat food that doesn't need a microwave, or eat just like snack stuff because I don't want to be too lethargic on the job. But again, their microwaves are usually filthy because no one cleans it. So that's one of the things that you don't expect, but it's a huge thing when it comes to working construction period. So many guys do not know how to clean up for themselves. Let's address the porta potty situation now. At the best of times, porta potties are pretty gross just because the nature of what they are, not having any running water, sometimes not being supplied adequately, especially if you have more trades appear on the job. It doesn't seem like the generals are able to supply a good amount more porta potties in time, so a lot of times you're suffering. But in the summertime, those things are miserable. It's like you're in a turd sauna. First of all, they stink really bad and you get sweaty like instantly. So those are pretty gross. And then let's also talk about the cultural aspect of some cultures, maybe in other countries, don't have proper running water. So they don't throw their used paper towels, their dirty paper towels or toilet paper into the toilet. They throw it like on the side, or they throw it in a little trash can. And sometimes you'll see that in the porta potties, which makes absolutely no sense. Dirty toilet paper fits inside of the porta potty. I think that should not go without saying, but some guys will literally take that and then like try to stuff it behind things, which is really gross. I don't understand that. I mean, porta potties are weird because they have like the graffiti and the crazy artwork, and you'll see people write their little political manifestos on the walls. I've seen almost race battles pop off because of different things that are going on inside of porta potties. But again, it's not that serious. The porta potty is not going to change the campaign. It's not going to change the election. You're fine. Also, I've been on a job where one of the porta potties was higher up on one of the decks, and we couldn't get to it because we were doing crane picks, and it just got left there. And guys used it so much that there was a mountain coming outside of the porta potty, and dudes were literally squatting over it and making it taller. So imagine like a Hershey Kiss coming out of the porta potty. That actually happened on one of my jobs, and it probably happened in like 2 weeks. That just shows you how many guys we had on the job and how foul dudes are if you let them. So instead of saying, hey, I'm not going to use that one, I'll just go down, the Alamac and then go to the other porta potties. They just filled that thing up. So that's something else that was super gross that I haven't talked about before on my channel. But again, porta potties are pretty foul on the best circumstances, but they can get absolutely disgusting.
And number 5,
for me, which one of the worst parts about being a carpenter is dealing with fiberglass. I know that might sound like, oh, fiberglass, but for me, it really sucks. I mean, getting fiberglass in my collar or getting fiberglass like on my arms because maybe, you didn't know what you were going to do that day. And so like, hey, go get this dense glass, cut it down, and now you're getting on you. And because you don't have running water, it seems like it's just constantly burrowing into your skin. Doesn't matter how much you wipe it, or if you get hand sanitizer and try to wipe it off your skin, it doesn't leave. And so especially if you start your day and you're dealing with fiberglass, whether it be dense glass, insulation, rock wool, that shit sucks. And I've been doing this for about 7 years now, and I still haven't gotten used to it. And even if I do wear a mask, it seems like all the little particles will get under the straps and just have me break out all over my face. I get really bad acne, and then I start to sneeze a lot. I remember working with fiberglass for about a month straight, and so I kept having like sneezing fits every day. My nose just constantly watering because, again, I try to wear the mask as much as I can, but at the same time, like sometimes when it's hot as hell outside, you don't want to feel like Darth Vader. We all know what it felt like during COVID of wearing that mask in 100 degrees outside doing manual labor. It's tough. So again, you have the choice of feeling like you can't breathe and you're sucking in water droplets, or breathing in fiberglass. Both terrible situations. So fiberglass for me is like the bane of my existence as a carpenter. Everything else I can deal with. Silica, whatever, you don't have the same thing when it comes to like the particles getting on you and making your day a living hell. Fiberglass for me is probably one of the worst parts about being a carpenter. I can lug a whole bunch of lumber, I can lift stuff, I can cut stuff, but that stuff, man, it just makes my day terrible. And don't let it be the first thing you do in the day and then you transition later on. You're just like, man, if I'm going to deal with it, let me deal with it either all day or at the end of the day. So now those were my 5 additional cons of being a carpenter. If you guys have any more you guys want to point out, post them in the comment section. Let me know what I missed. If you guys got this far, please like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys. And if you guys want to start building a community, I have a little Discord channel. I answer questions there. We also have some vets and some, retirees that are there to answer any questions for you that if I don't get to them, they get to them. So again, we're here to help. I appreciate you guys. See you guys in the next one. Peace. And guys used it so much that there was a mountain coming outside of the porta potty, and dudes were literally squatting over it and making it taller. So imagine like a Hershey Kiss coming out of the porta potty. That actually happened on one of my jobs,